time being, it's impossible for me to take my family back to the UK safely. Well, for a start, the only time that I've come back to the UK is...
The monarchy did not announce it with trumpets, speeches, or palace bells. It happened in silence, behind a glowing screen, where a familiar royal page suddenly changed forever. In one decision, King Charles drew a line that years of interviews, accusations, reconciliations, and betrayals had failed to erase. Harry and Meghan were not simply moved aside, they were removed. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles sat alone with the final approval note before him, and the silence around him felt heavier than any public scandal. The royal family website, the official online page where the monarchy presents its members to the world, had always been more than a directory. It was a symbol. It told the public who still belonged, who still served, and who still stood within the visible circle of the crown. Now the king had authorized the permanent removal of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from its active family section, and the word permanent carried the force of a closed gate. A palace staff member noticed the change during a routine digital review and froze before speaking. Another aide leaned closer, reading the updated page twice, as though a second look might soften what the first had confirmed. Harry and Meghan were no longer being adjusted, minimized, or quietly reshuffled. They had been removed from the place where royal identity met public recognition. That mattered, because even after their exit from official duties, that page had kept a thin thread alive between Montecito and Buckingham Palace. It suggested distance, but not total separation. Now even that thread had been cut. Charles read the approval note again, but his expression did not change. The king knew this was not technical housekeeping. This was a family rupture made public, dressed in the language of digital order. He set the paper down slowly, and for a moment, the monarch looked less like a ruler making a necessary decision, and more like a father, accepting a loss he could no longer delay. Duty had won, but it had not done so gently. Harry received the news privately, and silence struck him first. Meghan watched his face tighten before she asked the only question that mattered. Did he really approve it himself? Harry did not answer immediately, because the answer had already reached him. Charles had not merely allowed the change. He had owned it. Across the palace, a senior courtier closed the laptop softly after confirming the update, and that quiet click seemed to seal an entire chapter of royal history. But the removal was not born in that single moment. It exposed every unresolved wound between the king, his younger son, and the woman Harry chose to protect. And before anyone could understand the full force of the decision, the people at the center of it were forced to confront what they had truly lost. This was never just about a website. It was about blood, loyalty, image, duty, and the painful difference between family and institution. For Charles, the page carried the weight of a crown. For Harry, it carried the last visible thread, tying him to the life he walked away from. For Meghan, it became proof of something colder. The palace had finally stopped pretending. Charles understood the cruelty of the moment before anyone around him dared to say it aloud. He was not only the king, the man responsible for protecting the monarchy's image, order, and future. He was also a father, staring at a decision that placed duty above affection, in the most public way possible. The active family section of the royal family website meant the official area where the palace showed the people still presented as part of its living royal structure. And removing Harry and Meghan from that space was not a small edit. It was a declaration. It told the world that blood alone was no longer enough to keep a place beside the crown. Harry and Meghan occupied a position that had become impossible to explain cleanly. They were outside official royal duties, yet still tied to the monarchy by title, history, family, and global attention. Every interview, every public appearance, every carefully chosen word still echoed back toward Buckingham Palace. That was why the page mattered. It kept them near enough to the institution to benefit from its shadow, yet far enough away to challenge it. Charles had carried that contradiction for years, and each month made it harder for the palace to defend. The king studied an old photograph of Harry as a child before returning to the final digital brief. That small pause revealed the wound beneath the authority. Charles remembered the boy, before the battles, before the interviews, before the split became a permanent scar in the family story. Yet the monarch could not rule from memory. He had to act in the present. And in the present, the royal image had become a battlefield. Harry felt the blow differently. For him, the removal was not simply a loss of status. It felt like his father closing the palace door while the world watched. Meghan sensed that immediately. She understood the damage went beyond symbolism. This would shape how their children might one day read their place in royal history, not as a quiet family disagreement, but as an official separation written into public record. William was quietly informed before the change went live, and his restrained reaction carried its own message. The prince did not celebrate. He did not soften it either. His silence suggested deeper family support than outsiders expected, and that made the decision feel even more final. Yet beneath the visible players stood years of buried tension, and one specific incident pushed the palace past the point of return. To understand why Charles allowed such a final act, the story must return to the moment that turned irritation into irreversible resolve. Every royal rupture has a moment everyone remembers but few dare to name. In this story, it was not a television interview, not a memoir, not a public appearance. It was a private Windsor dinner, held behind closed doors, where one conversation hardened the king's heart and convinced senior figures that Harry and Meghan's royal presence could no longer remain officially displayed. The tension had been building long before that dinner, but Windsor gave it a name. Charles had spent years trying to keep some form of dignity around the split, even when the public criticism cut deep and the family trust grew thinner with every new storm. He believed a visible connection still mattered, because family, even fractured family, carried meaning beyond headlines. The official royal presence on the website had become that last connection, a public sign that Harry and Meghan were outside the daily work of the crown, but not erased from the larger story. That balance mattered because it helped Charles appear merciful while protecting the institution from looking openly divided. Harry arrived carrying old wounds, and Meghan carried sharper questions. The Windsor dinner was meant to be private, controlled, and calm, but it became the point where careful language finally broke. Harry challenged Charles over royal recognition for his family, pressing him on why his children and household seemed to be treated as distant shadows rather than living members of the bloodline. Meghan pushed further, asking whether the palace intended to erase them slowly, piece by piece, until the public simply accepted their disappearance. The words struck harder than anyone expected. Charles set down his glass without drinking. That small act changed the room. The king heard not only anger from his son, but accusation. He heard the suggestion that the monarchy was deliberately shrinking Harry's family, not because of duty, but because of resentment. It wounded him because he had resisted harsher measures for years. He had absorbed criticism, delayed firm action, and allowed the website to remain a bridge when many around him wanted it cut. Yet in that moment, mercy began to feel less like love and more like weakness exposed. William was present for part of the evening, and his warning landed with quiet force. The prince said the official website had become a contradiction because it showed unity where no working unity existed. Charles did not answer quickly, but he understood the danger. A monarchy survives on symbols, and a false symbol can become more damaging than open separation. Camilla later spoke to Charles in private, and her words stayed with him. She told him that compassion without boundaries was no longer protecting anyone. It was keeping the wound open. The dinner did not produce the removal immediately, but it created the emotional file that would later be reopened in the confrontation that changed everything. And when that old wound returned to the surface, Charles and Harry were pulled into the conversation both had avoided for far too long. The most explosive royal confrontations rarely happen before cameras. They happen in rooms where the doors are closed, the voices are low, and every word carries generations of consequence. This was one of those moments. Charles did not summon Harry as a prince. He faced him as a father who had run out of soft ways to say the same painful truth. Charles knew the call had to happen before the final approval became history. He could have let aides handle it, could have allowed the palace machine to move without one last personal exchange, but that would have made the decision colder than even he could bear. The final approval meant the king's last confirmation before the website change became official, and official royal representation meant the public way the monarchy shows who still serves and stands inside its way. Working circle. For Charles, those words mattered, because the crown could not keep presenting closeness where duty had ended. For Harry, they mattered, because they sounded like rejection, dressed as order. Harry sensed the weight before the first sentence was finished. He paced in silence, while Meghan stayed near enough to feel the tension rising, watching him prepare for a conversation he already feared. She knew Charles would not call unless the decision had reached a serious stage, and Harry knew it too. That was what made the moment so painful. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a rumor drifting through courtiers. This was his father, stepping forward to speak the sentence himself. Charles kept his voice controlled, but control did not soften the blow. He told Harry that official royal representation must now match official royal service. The words landed like a door closing. Harry heard more than policy. He heard exile. He answered with controlled anger, insisting that his family should not be reduced to a digital absence because he had chosen independence over obedience. Meghan listened as his voice tightened, and she understood that he was not fighting only for a place on a page. He was fighting against the feeling that his children's place in the family story was being made smaller. Charles then revealed the truth Harry had been waiting to hear and dreading at the same time. The decision had already passed through the palace's internal process. The aides had reviewed it. The language had been measured. The structure had been agreed. Only the king's final confirmation remained. Charles removed his glasses, pressed his fingers against his eyes, and said, "I cannot keep defending what no longer exists." Harry said nothing at first. Meghan felt the silence harden between them. Charles did not shout, and Harry did not break. But the quiet after that sentence was more devastating than anger. Both men understood what had happened. The crown had spoken where the father could not, and the son had heard the difference. But Charles was not acting alone in a vacuum, and the machinery behind the decision had been moving with quiet precision long before Harry heard the words. Behind every royal decision stands a world of courtiers, private secretaries, constitutional caution, and carefully measured language. Yet this time, the palace machine did not feel cold. It felt tense. Men and women who had spent years softening family fractures now watched the king accept a harder truth. The website had become the last official stage on which an old illusion survived. Charles knew the decision had moved beyond emotion. The palace team now had to make it precise, controlled, and impossible to misunderstand. Senior aides examined the website structure line by line, knowing that the public family pages, the official online area where the monarchy presents who belongs to its current royal circle, had to reflect present roles, not old affection. That mattered because the crown could not ask the public to trust its symbols, while those symbols told a softer story than reality. Harry and Meghan had stepped away from royal service, yet their names still carried royal power in public life. And that contradiction had become too heavy to ignore. A longtime aide paused when Harry's name appeared in the final review. He had once helped coordinate the prince's royal engagements, arranging duties, briefings, and public moments when Harry still stood inside the working monarchy. Working monarchy meant the small group of royals who carry out official duties on behalf of the sovereign, and the difference now was painful. The aide remembered loyalty, energy, and promise. Then he saw what remained, a name caught between family history and institutional distance. His hand hesitated before approval, because even officials trained to be calm understood that this was not a normal update. It was an ending, written in palace language. Charles asked the question no one expected him to ask. Is the wording cruel? The room fell still, because everyone understood what he meant. The king was not only checking tone, he was asking whether a father's wound had been turned into public punishment. No one rushed to answer. The silence itself became an answer, and Charles felt the weight of it. The permanent removal was being presented internally as a clarity measure, a way to separate private family history from the public shape of the monarchy. Yet clarity can still cut, and this cut reached straight into blood. William's influence moved quietly through the decision. The prince had warned in a private recommendation that the monarchy could no longer afford symbolic confusion. He believed the crown's future depended on clean lines, especially when public trust was fragile, and every royal signal was studied. William did not need dramatic words. His restraint made the warning stronger. Camilla supported Charles with the same quiet firmness, urging him not to let old guilt weaken boundaries he had finally chosen. She understood that mercy without limits could become a trap. Charles listened, and the machine closed around the decision. Not with celebration, not with cruelty, with a grim acceptance that the illusion had reached its final hour. Once the palace machine closes ranks, the fallout becomes unavoidable, and the first emotional shockwave lands far from London. Across the ocean, the update was no longer an internal palace matter. It became a personal wound, delivered through a public screen. In Montecito, the palace did not need to send a letter. The message appeared online, stripped of ceremony but heavy with meaning. One refresh of a page changed the room. Harry stared longer than Meghan expected. Meghan did not cry. She watched, measured the damage, and understood immediately that this was not a mistake waiting to be corrected. Harry felt the shock before he found the words. His team had noticed the website update quickly, and the silence around the discovery made the truth feel even sharper. This was not a broken link. It was not a delayed redesign. It was too clean, too deliberate, too carefully placed inside the official royal structure to be dismissed as error. The royal family website had served as one of the last public bridges between their independent life and the institution they had left behind. That mattered, because even without official duties, palace visibility still carried power. It gave their names a connection to royal legitimacy, and now that connection had been cut in front of the world. Meghan watched Harry hold the phone, and she knew the wound had landed deeper than pride. He was not staring at a screen as a man chasing status. He was staring at a decision his father had allowed to become public. The distance between London and California suddenly felt smaller and colder. Charles had not needed to speak to the world. The empty space spoke for him. To Harry, the removal felt like the palace door closing again. Only this time, there was no private hallway, no softened explanation, no family voice trying to cushion the blow. Meghan felt anger first. Not panic, anger. Then came resolve. She told Harry they could not look broken by a move designed to define them. Her words carried force because she understood the stakes beyond emotion. This change would shape public perception, influence future commentary, and touch the way their children might one day understand their place in the royal story. If they reacted too sharply, critics would call it proof of bitterness. If they stayed silent, others might decide the palace had won. Every choice now carried risk. Harry's team placed a call to a trusted advisor, and the first question was not whether the change had happened. Everyone already knew it had. The question was whether it could be challenged publicly without making the damage worse. That was the trap. A response could defend their dignity, but it could also pull them deeper into the very royal drama they had tried to escape. Harry surprised Meghan by refusing to issue an emotional statement right away. Silence had rarely protected them before, but this time he seemed to understand its strange power. Meghan studied him carefully. sensing that something inside him had shifted. He was wounded, yes, but he was also tired of letting every palace move command his next breath. The quiet did not heal the insult. It made room for something more difficult. But that silence creates space for one final private exchange, not between teams or advisors, but between two people, forced to decide what family means after the institution has withdrawn its name. And in that quiet space, far from palace offices and public outrage, the emotional center of the story finally shifted. The turning point did not arrive as revenge. It arrived as exhaustion. After years of statements, defenses, explanations, and battles over meaning, Harry looked at the empty space where his royal identity had once been officially displayed, and felt something unexpected. Not defeat, not acceptance, something quieter and more painful. The understanding that the page had only confirmed what the family had already become. Harry did not call for advisors immediately. Meghan did not summon a team. For once, the room belonged only to them, without staff, without public statements, without careful language built to survive headlines. That absence mattered, because so much of their royal story had been filtered through offices, lawyers, interviews, and response plans. Now the pain was stripped back to its most private form. It was no longer about strategy. It was about whether they still wanted recognition from the very system they had said wounded. Meghan watched him carefully, and Harry finally said what had been sitting beneath the silence. The removal hurt because it came from Charles, not because of a website, not because of a page, not because of palace order or digital structure. It hurt because his father had allowed the world to see distance as official truth. Charles had become the king before the parent in this decision, and Harry could feel that difference like a cold hand on an old bruise. He had spent years defending his independence, yet this was the cruel twist. When independence was finally reflected back at him, it looked more like exile than freedom. Meghan took his hand and reminded him that being erased from a royal page did not erase the life they had built. Her voice carried anger, but beneath it sat something steadier. She knew the sting was real. She knew their children might one day ask why the palace made their absence look so final. But she also knew they could not allow the monarchy to become the only measure of their worth. That mattered because their success outside royal walls had always been shadowed by the question of whether they still needed royal approval to feel complete. Harry reached for the phone, then stopped. That pause said more than a statement ever could. He chose not to call Charles again that night, and in that choice, the battle for immediate reversal quietly ended. It was not surrender. It was restraint. It was a man deciding that another painful conversation would not rebuild what the decision had already broken. Meghan closed the laptop softly. The gesture echoed the palace's own quiet finality, but this time it carried defiance instead of authority. The website had removed their names from one official space, but it had not taken their voice, their family, or their future. Still, while Harry and Meghan absorbed the personal meaning, the world outside was already preparing to turn their wound into judgment, loyalty, outrage, and spectacle. By morning, the private wound had become a public symbol, and Britain woke to a royal fracture no one could pretend was invisible anymore. The next morning, the story was everywhere. Not because the palace shouted, but because silence made it louder. The public saw a monarchy that had finally stopped cushioning the Sussex divide. Some called it discipline, others called it cruelty. But one image captured the mood better than any speech. A newspaper front page showing the royal website beside a blank space where Harry and Meghan once belonged. Charles saw the first wave of coverage before the palace had offered a single emotional explanation. That silence mattered, because palace communications, the careful system used by royal officials to shape public messages, had always been designed to control damage before it spread. But this time, the website itself became the statement. No long speech, no fatherly appeal, No careful sentence about family affection, just absence. The media understood instantly. This was no longer symbolic drift after Megxit, the public name often used for Harry and Meghan's break from senior royal duties. This was official separation, clean enough to be understood, and cold enough to wound. Camilla stayed near Charles as the morning turned heavier. She could see the burden in him, even when the king refused to dress it in regret. He had chosen clarity, but clarity had its own cost. A private family wound had become national theater, and every headline dragged father and son back into the same old arena. Charles had wanted the monarchy to stop looking confused. He had not wanted the pain to look so public. Yet that was the cruel power of the decision. It succeeded because everyone understood it immediately, and it hurt for the same reason. William remained composed when the coverage reached him, but the prince did not treat it like victory. He understood better than most why the line had been drawn. The monarchy could not keep offering official space to two people who lived outside its working structure, while still carrying its global weight. Yet he also knew what the public clarity meant for Harry. It deepened his brother's isolation. It made the distance measurable. It turned a family fracture into something people could refresh, compare, and debate. Then came the image that froze the morning. A London newspaper front page declared, "Digital exile," above a stark image of the royal family website, with Harry and Meghan's former place highlighted in shadow. The phrase spread quickly because it captured the mood with brutal simplicity. Outside Buckingham Palace, a small crowd gathered. Some defended Charles's firmness, saying the king had finally protected the institution. Others held up phones, comparing old and new pages, shaking their heads at how final it felt. Harry and Meghan's absence had become a public argument, but the deeper truth remained private. Every side claimed meaning. Every commentator reached for judgment. Yet, beyond the noise, beyond the headlines and public judgment, the final meaning of the time to decision belongs to the family that can no longer hide from what it has become. And when the noise settled, one truth remained standing above every headline. The monarchy had chosen definition over attachment. In the end, the removal was not just punishment, not just policy, and not just a palace update. It was the monarchy's final statement on a relationship stretched beyond repair. Charles did what kings are often forced to do. He placed the crown where the heart wanted to hesitate. Harry and Meghan lost a page, but Charles lost the comfort of pretending the family was still whole. Charles felt the quiet after the headlines faded, and that quiet carried more weight than the storm itself. The final brief rested near him like a finished chapter he had not wanted to write. A final brief is the last official summary given before a decision is completed. And for the king, this one mattered because it turned years of uncertainty into a single public truth. The monarchy could no longer live between two stories. It could not say Harry and Meghan had stepped away while still holding them inside the same official image as those who served. It could not protect the crown's future while allowing the past to blur every line. The monarch set the papers aside and touched the edge of the desk, as if steadying himself after a blow no one else could fully measure. Charles had gained clarity, but clarity had cost him the illusion of closeness. The official image of the monarchy now carried sharper borders. Those who served inside the institution remained visible inside its public structure. Those who left stood outside it, not erased from blood, not removed from memory, but separated from the working face of royal duty. That mattered, because the crown survives through symbols, and this symbol had finally stopped pretending. Harry and Meghan accepted the reality in their own way. He carried the wound of a son who knew his father had made distance permanent before the world. She carried anger, but also resolve, refusing to let a palace page decide the value of the life they had built. Their independence had once sounded like freedom, bold and self-directed. Now it looked colder, sharper, and more final than either had expected. They had asked for space from the institution, But the institution had answered with a boundary that could not be softened. William understood the decision, protected the future crown. Yet the prince found no joy in it. The future crown means the royal role he is expected to inherit one day, and he knew this moment strengthened that future by ending confusion. But it also hardened the divide with Harry, in a way brotherhood might never repair. Camilla recognized the threshold Charles had crossed, and the queen consort's quiet presence reinforced what everyone close to him already knew. This had not been impulse. This had not been revenge. This was final resolve. This moment meant the monarchy had chosen survival through clarity. Charles had chosen kingship over comfort, and Harry and Meghan had been forced into the independence they once demanded, but never expected to look this final. There is no door left half open here. The royal website became the place where a private family fracture was finally made official, permanent, and impossible to deny. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.